Listen, we get it. Everyone's up in arms about a particular and singular match on Sunday up in the north of England. But you know what? There are 9 other matches going on this weekend, and some of them are actually important to their respective clubs' prospects for the season. We will respectfully review all that's on offer today on Coffee with a Kick. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with a Kick. Today, we cover Matchday 5 predictions for the Premier League this upcoming weekend. We got a big one coming up later this episode that you'll definitely want to tune in for. Anything you want to say before we get started, Keegan?
I just want to say thank you to all of our watchers and listeners for just being Coffee with a Kick. You support us. You're the reason why we're here. That's half true. The reason why we're here is because we all love Premier League soccer. But we thank you for your support, and we hope that these picks, at least mine, will be perfect. So if you want to make some money, if you want to look good in your friend group with some predictions, just go with my picks. Xander's probably won't be that great, but I know that mine will help you probably get some more respect with your EPL-loving friends. So anyways, I'm excited to get into match week 5 because it's going to be one of those that could decide some fate of a few teams early on, I think at least.
Yeah, there are some integral lower table matches that we have coming up here.
As you say, there's some juicy matches.
Some juicy matchups here. I don't know if they're actually juicy matchups, but they're certainly important to the teams that are playing. The first one is one of those that could help a team right their season, could not. West Ham hosts Chelsea for our first match of the weekend, 7:30 a.m. on Saturday, tomorrow, at London Stadium. West Ham. How do you think that this one shakes out?
I'm going to go with the fluctuation of Chelsea's results so far. They won, they drew, they won, they lost. So based on that trend, it's looking like a win is going to happen.
Really?
I think I'm going to have Chelsea winning 2-1. West Ham just don't look very cohesive. Their new signings don't look like they've really formed any sort of bond or any sort of rhythm with their teammates. So I think they're still going to be on the losing end of this one.
Well, I hate to disagree with you, but I think that Chelsea is... I guess neither side has really looked that impressive so far this season. Certainly not what we thought Chelsea would look like coming off of how they ended last season. So I've actually got it as one of those where the home side comes through for them in the end. And being at the home stadium, helps them out. I've got it as a 2-0 victory for West Ham over Chelsea. It's a bold pick, I'll say, but one that I will stick to. The next one, I don't think it's a bold pick. Arsenal takes on my Wolves. I think Arsenal. I know Aston Villa takes on the Wolves. They were very impressive in the midweek. I think that they can roll off of that match against Young Boys into this one versus my Wolves. Now, is the talent going to be similar? Maybe. The color will be similar. Well, we'll actually be in our ways, so it won't be the golds. But I think that Aston Villa still manages. They clean our clocks at 3-1. I think that it's going to be pretty straightforward.
A good clean clock is good as long as it's not on the football pitch. I think if it was at Wolves, I would love to pick a draw. Like we've talked about, Wolves, when they're at home, just seem to have that extra oomph that the home crowd gives them. Aston Villa, I don't see them losing at home. I think they are going to ride that wave, and I think they're going to win 3-1.
Oh, straight concurrence here.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Listen, if we can get it a perfect pick, then we'll double those units. Next up is Fulham and Newcastle. How do you think this one's going to go there at Craven Cottage?
Newcastle, I think, is in deceivingly good form. They've won 3 out of 4. They're on 10 points. I don't think that they've been playing as good of football as maybe it's appeared. Like last week, we saw them just barely squeak a win by. And I think they're going to go to Craven Cottage, and I think they're going to suffer their first loss of the season. I think Fulham's got it in them to get a couple of goals, hold Newcastle to only 1. So score prediction, I have it 2-1. I think Fulham can do it.
Well, you're a little bit more optimistic than I am for Fulham. I have it as a 2-2 because at home Fulham is pretty good at slowing down the match and playing at their own pace. It feels like they've only had 2 home matches, but they're undefeated at home so far this season. So it's a promising sign for them going forward. And I think that I concur that Newcastle will not get as good a result as they would have hoped here, and at least get a point in my perspective. But 2-2 is what I've got for them. And then this is one of those I think you're referencing here: Leicester versus Everton, a really important match for both sides because they're going to be rubbing those few little points together at the end of the season, as I've said time and again. Leicester currently on 2 points. Everton, as we've covered previously, really, really bad on 0 points. Worst goal difference in the league right now at -9 already after just 4 matches. And do you know what I think? I think that neither side is going to be happy after this. I think it's going to be an abysmal 0-0 draw between Leicester and Everton. And both sides the fans will walk away and be like, yeah, this is what we deserve. This is we're not doing well right now. Not even Jamie Vardy's going to fix it right now.
Yeah, there's an interesting stat that Everton is only the 3rd Premier League side to lose their first 4 matches and concede 13 plus goals. And Sheffield last year was not one of those other teams. So
you do not want to be breaking Sheffield's records from last year. That is not a good thing to be doing.
No, you do not. And Leicester historically has been good against bottom of the table teams, but just like Newcastle is deceptively higher up the list than they should be, I think, right now in the standings. I think Everton's deceptively low because we've seen them able to score goals. They just haven't figured out how to keep them out. I don't think Leicester is that type of team that if Everton gets up, can come back and get any points. I have it 3-1 Everton winning because I think they're going to need a win. They've shown they can score now. They couldn't score last year. They can score this year. So I think they're going to kind of regress to the mean of playing better defense underneath Sean Dyche, who's known for that.
We'll see. I mean, they're going to have to show me they can keep up a 2-goal lead first. They have to show us that they can actually do that. If you're going to do it against anyone, you better do it against Leicester, right? Then to Liverpool and Bournemouth. Liverpool hosts Bournemouth. Do you think that Bournemouth has a chance in this one?
My initial prediction, I think they draw. After last match weekend, we saw Liverpool lose at home for the first time in Lord knows when. It was only Van Dijk's 3rd loss ever as a starter at Anfield. And then they go midweek, they go to Milan, and they beat Milan 3-1. What I don't love is how quick the turnaround is, especially with traveling out of the country. I think that's going to have a bigger toll on Liverpool's squad than people might think, especially as we continue to get into these Champions League weeks. So I think Bournemouth, they played really well against Everton, came back 2-0 down. I think they're going to ride that wave into a 1-1 draw at Liverpool.
Hey, Bournemouth will take a point out of Anfield with grace and with joy. I don't think they will, though. I think it'll be exciting. I think it'll be a 3-2 victory for Liverpool. I think they pull it out in the end. They're doing all right now. I think they will be recovering from the loss against Nottinghamforest, which was so strange, and bounce back in this one. Then to another one of those matches that is very important for both sides: Southampton and Ipswich Town. Southampton hosts Ipswich Town. I have both these teams staying up So it's hard for me to pick this one, but I think Southampton definitively needs the points more. So I think that Southampton wins this 2-0 over Ipswich Town. They get the points you get the points when you can get them, right? So I think that they'll take advantage here at home versus Ipswich Town and get a full 3.
Yeah, at the current moment, the stat I have pulled up is that Southampton are one of 2 teams yet to lead a single minute in the Premier League this season. Crystal Palace, surprisingly, is the other one. This one, it feels like both teams need the points. I just think Ipswich is more of a cohesive team. Midweek, Southampton played a majority of their starters versus Tottenham in, I believe it was the Carabao Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And they were up 1-0. And then within 5 minutes there at the end, Tottenham scored 2 goals, I think in stoppage time, and they won the game. So there seems to be this aura around Southampton that, especially after giving up 2 goals that late to lose in a competition you hope to win at least 1 or 2 matches in, there's like an aura now forming around, can we actually win a game? Can we actually get points? Can we do this or that? I think that continues, and I think Ipswich takes it 2-1.
Disappointing. Good units play for you, though. Then we go to, speaking of Tottenham, Tottenham will be facing Brentford this weekend at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. Do you think that those Magpies... no, not the Magpies. That's Newcastle. Do you think that Tottenham will... They're not the Magpies. Don't worry. I'm not that dumb. Okay? Tottenham versus Brentford. What do you have?
I'm going to go 1-1. I think Tottenham, especially versus Arsenal, and then even the week before against Newcastle, they've kind of been figured out. Postecoglou, if you can just stifle the wingbacks a little bit, they get out of position very easily. So I think they've been figured out. So unless he starts to do something differently with his lineup and with his approach to games, teams are going to start to figure Tottenham out. And I think Brentford's smart enough that they are going to set up that way to stifle their strong points, not let them get on the wings and do what they want to do. So I'm going to go 1-1. I think it's low scoring, ends in a draw, but it'll be tough for Tottenham to not get a win against Brentford at home.
Yeah, I also have it very low scoring, but I do have Tottenham coming away with the victory. Tottenham has beaten teams, has performed against teams that they should be beating. They drew Leicester, which is terrible, but they beat Everton 4-0 and then lost to 2 teams that are better, Newcastle and Arsenal, whereas Brentford are performing to the sides that they're playing. So they lost to Liverpool 2-0, lost to City 2-1, although they weren't terrible in that. And then they beat Southampton and Crystal Palace. So this will be it's sort of an indicative match for Tottenham, because if Brentford is able to get the point out of there, it really doesn't speak well towards Tottenham going forward. We haven't seen their offense click. And Dominic Solanke, again, still, like we are still waiting for him to figure out his place in this attack. And I don't know if that goal is going to be his. Probably it's going to be Heung-min Son's. You know what? We'll say it's actually Madison's. He has a long-range kick in like the 72nd minute that goes in, and they're able to tighten down the hatches, batten down the hatches technically, and coast out the
I will give this stat right here, mainly because Wolves is a part of it. Spurs have lost 7 of their last 11 Premier League games dating back to April 13th. And only Wolves have suffered more defeats in the Premier League since then with 8.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you threw that one out there. Yeah.
So Tottenham, they're not playing too well as of late underneath old Ainge.
No, Postecoglou, you're looking really rough there, lad. All right, on to, I think this is the last one for Saturday. We have another, just that bundle there at 10 a.m., shoving in a lot of matches there. But 12:30 on Saturday, before we get to Sunday, we've got Crystal Palace hosting Manchester United at Selhurst Park in London. For this one, I've got Crystal Palace winning. I think that they win here 2-1. I think that they break that streak that you had mentioned where they have not led a single minute so far this season. But I think they do it late. I think that they get a late goal to push them over the edge against Manchester United.
Yeah, I have it 2-1. I think Crystal Palace can do it. I think Man U also, similarly to some other teams, they're starting to show a theme. Man U won the first match, lost the next two, won last weekend. So I think that Crystal Palace at home is going to figure it out and fire away with 3 points.
Yeah, I certainly have picked them to do so. And then we do move over to Sunday for Brighton and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest currently riding high after their victory last week. Brighton suddenly stumbles with 2 straight draws versus Ipswich. I mean, the Arsenal draw, you will take that, the 1-1 Arsenal draw. But the 0-0 draw versus Ipswich Town was an outlier for certain. So they get another chance against a relegation-threatened side at home. I think this one that they take care of business. I think it's 3-0 for Brighton over Nottingham Forest.
So this is one of those matches to me that I think also could determine a course of a season, at least the first half. Both teams are 6th and 7th right now. Both teams on 8 points. The goal difference separates them. Nottingham have played well. I think they have a chance to really do something here. Brighton, we've seen them, depending on the game, they're going to score goals or not score goals. 0-0 draw to Ipswich last weekend. 1-1 draw to Arsenal, really good. Draw there. I mean, the red card helped. And then, Nottingham beating Southampton. So we really haven't seen them get tested a ton yet. So I think this will be a good match against 2 teams that are hoping to stay in the top 10. I'm going to go 2-2. I don't really see a lot that separates these 2 teams. So I'm going to go with the draw.
All right. Well, we'll see. I still think that Nottingham is not as good as where they are. Speaking of sneaky teams that are sneakily up top, like Newcastle. And then I'll let you lead off the predictions here for the big match of the weekend. Manchester City hosts Arsenal at the Etihad for our primetime slot on Sunday.
This one I'm excited for because last year we kind of saw Arsenal just barely take away that, are you still the big brother type role? But Man City at home is still Man City at home. They're unbeaten in their last 9 Premier League matches against Arsenal at home. Last defeat was January of 2015. And Man City at home, besides this past week in the Champions League, we've won a lot of games. Kevin De Bruyne, still to be seen whether he's going to be able to be fit enough to play. Arsenal don't have Martin Odegaard, and they don't have anyone to fill that role. Last year, they at least still had Emile Smith-Rowe to be able to fill that creative space in the middle. But now City can really key in on Saka, on Havertz, on Jesus. And these players aren't necessarily creative. They're the beneficiaries of the creativity when it's there. But when they're called to do something on their own, we haven't seen a lot of it. So I think City is going to take this 3-1. I am not confident in keeping a clean sheet, but I do think that Arsenal not being at full strength is going to mess with their lineup, and I think City is going to really expose Odegaard being out.
Yeah, I almost made an adjustment here because I made my pick prior to City, but prior to KDB getting hurt. But Arsenal has their own injury woes going on right now, so I'm holding steady. I still got it as a 2-1 victory for Manchester City. It could be a crazy match where Erling Haaland is angry that he didn't get a goal for the first time this season in the midweek action. But I still think I don't think he's going to go crazy. So 2-1 I think is a fair result. I think only one of those comes from Erling Haaland. I'm still going to take him anytime goal scorer because, why not? But I do think that City still come in with an advantage on this one. And take home all 3 points. Stay perfect on the season. Stay top of the table. And continue to, this will put them possibly, depending on how Newcastle does, possibly at a 5-point gap early in the season, which is, that's going to start worrying some people. Luckily, you both picked City to win it, so it doesn't worry us. It makes us feel confident, at least in the first place. Now, Chelsea being second for me, I've been worried the whole time. And it is not being allayed. Those worries are still very high for that prediction. It looks like it's going to be bad. But we'll cover that at like the mid-season. I don't know, at Christmas or something like that. We'll see. We won't, not until we get there, because we'll have plenty of other episodes until we get there. But until we get back on the other side of this weekend, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye.